Well, good evening, everyone. It's 6 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and get started. We'd like to welcome you to the September hearings of the Town of Canandaigua Zoning Board of Appeals. It is our custom to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, after which we will observe a brief moment of silence in honor of our servicemen and women. So if you would please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We'll begin tonight. We have two new public hearings. The first is for property at 5010 Butler Road. Jeremy and Deborah Ortloff are seeking a stream setback area variance for the construction of a detached accessory building. And I understand that they will be represented tonight by Finger Lakes Construction.
Yeah, that's me, Eric Johnson.
Good evening, Eric. Go ahead and give us a little description of what you're looking to do.
Well, they would like to put a pole barn in, and try to. They wanted to stay as close to the stream as possible.
Eric, I just wanted to let you know that I'm controlling the screen right now, so if there's anything that you want me to pull up that you submitted, just let me know.
Okay. Well, I guess they've kind of changed their plan a little bit of trying to do the pole barn to a smaller outbuilding, which they had kind of short notice sent over last week, which would move it farther away from the stream. And it would be just a shed type building instead of like an actual pole barn. So they're kind of moving from the actual permanent structure to a more semi-permanent.
So Eric, the application is for an accessory structure 1,500 square feet. What is the current proposal in terms of square footage?
The new one would be 680 square feet.
Okay, 680.
Yep.
And the originally provided application was a setback of 38.1 feet. What does that change to?
That would give it 60.1 foot.
So we're looking for a variance request of 39.9 feet.
Yes.
Okay. Eric, can you just zoom back in on that plan there a little bit? Yeah, that's good. Okay.
Can I ask how far the building will be from the neighbor's house? I'm a neighbor.
Not yet, not yet. We'll get to questions and comments from the public. The way we run the hearings is we take information from the applicant first, and then I will open up the meeting to questions and comments from the public.
Thank you. Sorry for interrupting then.
Yeah, no problem. And when we get to that point, all comments and questions are directed to the board. Then we'll go back to the applicant to see if they'd like to provide any additional information.
Thank you.
Yep, no problem. So why don't we go to the board members right now to see if they have any questions for the applicant on this application.
Yeah, I was out there today, and there is an outline, a limed outline of the building. Is that the new one or the old one? The way it's on the ground, it looks like it was the old one.
I think he has been marking out a whole mess of different ones, so there's probably a combination of the new one and the old one.
Okay.
Yeah.
What other questions do we have from the board?
I have a procedural question, Terrence.
Yeah, go ahead, John.
For them to change the dimensions as significantly as they have and change the concept of the plan as significantly as they have,
Mhm.
don't they need to go and resubmit before they come before the zoning board?
Well, we've noticed the variance, they can always reduce that. You know, there might be a little bit of a question about whether it's so substantial that it's really a different application. That would have to be a determination that we would make. But if we wanted to go forward, we would be safe from an Article 78 challenge because they are reducing. You can't increase what was noticed, but you can reduce the ask.
Okay. And the one question it looks like here, on the design drawing, it showed a 41.1 foot setback from the rear property line, and now it's noting a 37.1 foot setback.
Eric, you want to answer that?
Yes, because the dimensions of the barn originally was 30 by 50, and so he went to 20 by 34, but that meant the back of the new barn went 4 foot farther past the original setback.
Still not,
And that would-
Eric.
Yep.
Cooper, that's still not a variance then, is it?
Yes, he's still well outside of that setback requirement. I believe it's 15 feet in this district.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was like 25 feet, isn't
25, it was a principal building, but 15 for accessory.
it? Oh, okay.
We see the Google Air or from above. Yeah, thanks. And Eric, could you tell us what we're looking at?
Sorry, which Eric?
I'm
me
sorry,
or-
Eric Cooper.
So here's the property right there, 5010, outlined in yellow. The stream in blue is probably a little bit inaccurate. It would run more.
Yeah, you can see the gully there. Yep, that's it. Yep.
Where the proposed building is, I can kind of figure out real quick. There, and what was it, 60 feet away?
Yep. Essentially 60.1, but yeah, 60 feet. That's pretty close right there.
So this is, of course, very rough, but it would look something like that.
That's helpful.
So to the rear of this property, you have Fox Ridge and then, you know, a couple neighbors on either side.
How tall is the new building?
I think like, well, let's see, I can tell you here. I think it's not over like 16 foot. I don't even think it's.
It's a good question to ask. If it is over 16 feet with the reduction in footprint, it would need a variance. The rules say if it's under 1,000 square feet, it's got to be 16 feet or less.
I'm trying to find the.
Eric Cooper, how far is it away from the house? Oh, there we go. Okay, thank you.
Approximately 50 feet.
What other questions from the board before we go to the public on this application?
I would just ask, have we granted any other variances in that neighborhood similar?
I don't recall. You can certainly tell that there's a number of other structures close to that stream nearby.
The house would be what, the
West.
west, or is it
Yeah.
the east?
That's the west, yeah.
Okay. That looks like it's much closer, right?
Yeah.
The
And that
stream
was our
certainly
pool.
isn't much of a stream.
No, not really.
So, to that point, it did flood back in 2017 down in this area. I don't know how kind of far up it went, but it does flow pretty good from time to time.
For the applicant, what's going to be put in the accessory building?
He is going to store like his motorcycles and stuff and just regular common storage.
Okay.
Be electricity?
He does want to run some electricity out there, but nothing else. Just for lighting.
All right,
So
any
you-
other questions from the board before we go to the public?
We're
I guess-
still a question about the height,
Right.
or are we
Um,
sure, do we know that number for the height?
Yeah, it looks like it's probably somewhere, he's got 8-foot sidewalls and the other part is probably the gable ends are probably no more than 6 foot tall. So I think it would be overall like 14 foot. I will have to confirm that with him because that's the one thing they didn't write on here.
Well, then what would we do, Terrence? Would we make it, when we vote, if it was approved, it would have to be conditional that it was 15 feet or less in height? How would we do that?
Yeah, we could just put in there that it's based on the current drawings and the information provided tonight during the hearing, which is that it's 14 feet tall. If it turns out to be taller, then the variance is invalidated because it's not based upon, well, it would only apply for 14-foot buildings, so they'd have to come back in for a new variance for a different building. Our variance would only apply to a 14-foot building.
Would it apply only to 14-foot building or to a building less than 16 feet?
16, that
In
was
case
my
it happens to be 14 and a half.
Well, we could say that if we wanted to. Generally, we say it's based upon the information provided in the
Right.
documents and at the public hearing, and the information we've received is that it's 14.
Okay.
Well, isn't it, they don't require a variance if it's under 16 anyway?
Yeah, at this size.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to say is that we always grant the variance based upon the plans. And so there could be a change in the plans that might not require a separate variance, but it could very well change our analysis. You know, we're always weighing and balancing different factors.
Okay.
But if we wanted to grant some leniency there and say it's based on everything presented except for the height, but it's got to be within the 16 feet maximum for that size accessory structure, we could do that.
I mean, that way they don't have to come back if it's, within the code,
Yep. Well, let's go to the public now. Do we have any comments or questions on this application from anyone in the public? And I guess our procedure is if you just give us your name and address and then go ahead with your question or comment.
Am I on now? This is
You're on. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm Doug Daniels. I live at 5030 Butler Road. So the first house to the west
Yep.
of the property owners. So my concern is what is code for how close this building can be to my property, and for the builder, how close is it going to be?
Okay, very good. So the minimum side setback is 15 feet, but why don't we go to the applicant, Eric, if you want to tell us your computation to the side property line?
To the side property line, it would be no closer than 37.1 foot.
Okay.
certainly well beyond the need there. If, in addition, if you need, I've lived here 16 years, if you need any information on the flood of 2017 when Butler Road was closed by Jim
Fletcher.
Fletcher, yeah, I can give it to you. I don't know if you need that.
Well, I guess the question would be, you know, your house is closer than this.
My
structure.
house is very close to the creek,
Yeah.
yes. We did not have water in our yard. There was a little in the neighbor's yard. The road was closed down where it crosses, but where this stream crosses Butler Road. There was probably a 200 or 300 foot, diameter pool of water there that lasted several hours before it drained out. The storm was, I'm told by Jim Fletcher, that since Agnes in 72, they've had nothing like this. That it also flooded West Avenue to close that road down for the first time since Agnes. So that's all I can tell you on this.
So living that close to the stream, do you feel that there's any potential negative impact to the stream if this accessory structure is placed?
I think that's sufficiently far away from the stream.
Yeah, it'd be 60
And
feet.
I'm very concerned environmentally. But, my home's been there since the 50s, so that doesn't change. But for new structure, no, I don't think they have a problem for them, nor would it be a danger to the drainage.
Okay. Do we have any other questions or comments from anyone in the audience on this application? All right, then we'll go back to the applicant. Anything additional you'd like to add, Eric?
No, I think I'm all set at the moment.
All right, any final questions from anyone on the board?
Were there any other comments from neighbors that aren't present on the record?
I didn't
see.
I don't think so. Yeah, I didn't see any.
Okay.
No comments from neighbors. The comments from the ECB, if you all saw that, but that's it.
All right, and then for the applicant, we have 62 days to render a decision once we've closed a public hearing.
Okay.
When we close a public hearing, we don't receive any new information on the application. Our deliberations are open to the public, but they do not include public participation. So Eric, are you comfortable closing this application?
Yes.
All right. Well, with that, we'll close this hearing. We'll move to our next public hearing. This is for property located at 5265 Menteith Drive. The owners of the property, Richard and Alice Brovitz, are being represented by Costage Engineering and J. Harris Maxwell, and the applicants are seeking a building height area variance for a new detached garage. So who will be speaking to this application?
J. Harris Maxwell. We'll start off with Hanlon Architects.
Go ahead, Jay.
So right now, this project has been before you before. We recently have the home construction underway. And right now, the project that's before you is the detached garage at the back end of the property. Right now, it's about 330 square foot size single-story garage that we're looking to demo and construct a new detached garage, a little larger in size, approximately 460 square feet in size. So that's the existing plan you're looking at on the screen. Again, that's about 330 square feet. And you can see how it's tucked back tight to the back property lines. Eric, if you go to the next drawing sheet, this is a footprint that has been before you, before the board before under a different application. We've just kept the same footprint and the same setbacks of this building that were previously approved. What we're doing tonight is after the house has been designed and constructed, we've evaluated the real need for additional storage space. So with this application, we're proposing a 2-story detached garage. The height that's required is 16 feet, and we're proposing a 2-story up to 22 feet. Again, really, we're trying to gain as much storage in this area as we can. As you know, that the proposed house is in the floodplain, so we have no ability to do a basement or gain any really maximum storage in the house itself. So we're trying to achieve it back in this detached garage. Each of the floors of this space would gain us about 350 plus or minus square feet at each level for storage. So again, we're just trying to maximize as much storage we can. The architectural design is in keeping with the design of the house. You can see where there's a gable framing at front and back, and then there's a kind of a center butterflied dormers. The front and back gables only net like a 6-foot wall height upstairs. There's like a building section you can see in the middle, bottom of the page. So there's wall heights of 6 feet, still kind of low in that area, but then it's just completely vaulted to get large storage space in this upper level. Again, we've evaluated what we have with the residential space. So again, we're trying to gain much room as we can here. And then just trying to keep the storage building to a modest height, we believe. So that's it, kind of in conclusion and a description of what we're trying to do. I see Eric's got some other pictures of neighboring detached garages in the neighborhood. As comparison, that would be the Levies just to the north. I think that's the, is that the Henry's place, Eric Cooper?
Yes.
Okay.
Eric, do we have heights on any of these pictures you're showing us? I mean, a picture's helpful, but.
I do not. I could potentially check the property files quickly, but.
Don't worry about that. I was just curious.
And one of the considerations we had as far as the height goes, the placement where this building is kind of tucked way out of the way of other neighboring properties. It's almost no visual impact from the lake, the Westlake Road, other neighbors. So again, feeling that if we're trying to achieve a little more height, that was some more rationale we had, is given its proximity on the property and low visibility to neighbors.
What's the height of the house?
It's just under 25 feet. It's like 24.6.
Okay.
And what was the height of the second story of the building?
On the detached garage right now, we're 22 feet to the roof peak. We're 9 feet floor to floor.
Can you see that, Dave?
Yeah.
And part of that driver of that 9 feet floor to floor is when we get stairs access to that upper space, we want to make sure we have headroom clearance as we traverse up the stairs and turn into the upper level space. So we had to be careful of our headroom there. So it's kind of playing with the number of stairs that we have to get up to the second floor and that floor to floor height.
What other questions do we have from the board on this application?
I guess.
Is there any input from neighbors on this?
Yeah, there was a number of neighbors that submitted letters. As I recall, they're all in favor. Shirley and I, that's the Levy's.
They're all in favor?
Yeah, as I recall. Sarah Linda Hooker across Menteith Drive is in support of the application, favor of the grants. The county comments, they took no action, essentially. No formal recommendation. Nothing from Jim Fletcher. The ECB recommended approval, I think.
So there's no objections, basically, from anybody.
Yep.
So in terms of neighbors in favor, we've got the Levies at 5267, Peter Schottland, who owns 5271 and 5273, and William Henry at 5269.
And Sarah Linda Hooker
Right.
on the other side of Antique. She's got 3 addresses.
Well, she's just across the creek from that whole thing, isn't she?
Yes.
Where the outlet is.
Yep.
Well, while board members are thinking, why don't we just open it up and see if there's anyone from the public that has any comment or question on this application. Once again, if you do, just give us your name and address and then state your comment or question to the board. Okay, doesn't look like we have anyone. Evan, I know you're there on mute from Costitch. Do you have anything you want to add, or you're good?
No, I think Jay covered it all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any final questions from the board?
Just electricity going out to it?
Correct.
Okay.
All right, then, Jay, on behalf of the Brovitzes, are you comfortable closing the application?
Yes, I am.
All right. Well, if that will close, same, statement I made earlier, we have 62 days to render a decision, but it's our custom to deliberate and vote the same evening we hear applications. So we'll go into our deliberations. Once again, these are public deliberations, but there's no public contribution or participation. So let's start with Ortloff's property, 5010. I like the fact that the size of the structure has been reduced and brought back quite a bit further away from the stream. 60 feet, I think, is pretty good distance considering what's going on in that neighborhood. I don't see any, significant concern with this. Does anyone else see anything that maybe I'm overlooking?
I don't have any concerns. You could see that there are other structures, I think, closer to the stream. So I think the lot is deep enough that I don't have any issues with it.
Yeah.
I would agree.
I agree.
And I tend to be a little bit more sensitive on some of these streams where there's, steep slopes or steep banks, significantly steep banks like the little gorges we get here and there. This one, I don't think there's really any risk of erosion or damage to that stream with this structure, so. Eric, I'm not hearing any significant concern. Would you like to call the vote on this one?
You guys are ready, although I gotta change this up real quickly.
So Terrence, for this one, are we going to be adding in the language, I guess, just saying that as long as it's within code from the height requirement?
Yeah, we can do that. My thought was, I didn't want to assume how anyone was going to vote. There wasn't a ton of discussion, but that, if
Right.
it passed, we would discuss the conditions everyone wants to put on it. But I think that'd be reasonable.
Okay.
Just so we're all aware, it'll be a 39.9 stream setback variance. I believe we've said that earlier, but
Yeah.
so we got it. So for Finger Lakes Construction for Jeremy Ortloff at 5010 Butler Road, the applicant is requesting an area variance to allow a 60.1 foot stream setback for an accessory building when a 100-foot stream setback is required. Shall the applicant be granted a 39.9 stream setback area variance? Bob?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Kelly?
Yes.
Chip?
Yes.
Terrence?
Yes.
Okay.
So in terms of our decision, Eric, the board's decision is based on the descriptions and drawings provided. on the dates of the written submissions and on the public hearing conducted on September 15th, 2020. The board has determined that the benefit to the applicant does outweigh the detriment to the neighborhood or the community, therefore the variance is granted. The board has made the following specific findings of fact. First, that this variance is in keeping with the character of the neighborhood. There are other structures that are closer to the stream. This variance will not change the character of the neighborhood, and the variance is in keeping with the unique character of the neighborhood. The board has also considered potential environmental impacts and determined that the granting of this variance will not have an adverse effect on the property or on the stream or neighborhood. Any other findings of fact that anyone would like to make?
I'm not sure that we discussed it too much, but by leaving it here, it does eliminate the need to remove a number of large trees just to the south of it. And so it'll help screen it if that's at all like
That's a bonus.
consideration. Or
Well-
help establish the uniqueness.
That may be true, but we didn't get that fact during the public hearing, so I don't want to be going off a road where we're accepting new facts now in deliberations. But I think we're okay on where we're at in the findings of fact.
I don't think 53 feet is unreasonable to be away from the house.
Yeah, we can put that in, that it's sufficient distance from the house. That was in the public hearing. In terms of conditions, we'll do our standard 2 conditions and then a third for this one. On the first 2, the variance is specific to the most recent plan submitted to the Zoning Board of Appeals, and any change in the plan shall invalidate the variance subject to condition 3, which I'll get to in a minute. Condition 2, the variance is conditioned on building permits being issued within 1 year, the date the variance is granted. Failure to obtain the building permit within 1 year shall invalidate the variance. And then condition 3 is that the height of the structure shall be within code. Do you think that accomplishes what we want to say, Kelly?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it gives them a little leeway that they don't have to come back if something changes, as long as it's within the code.
Okay. And then for the applicant, that's the only change that, in terms of that height, if you go 14, 14 and a half, whatever that ends up being, as long as it's under the code requirement of 16, that can be made without the variance being invalidated.
Okay.
Otherwise, the standard condition 1 that is applicable to any change to the layout or the site plan will invalidate the variance.
And also, just so you're aware, Chris Jensen, the code enforcement officer, may require some sort of verification that the setback here is, at 60.1 feet or at least 60.1 feet.
Okay.
Okay, very good. Let's go to our second application with the property on Menteith Drive. Any thoughts on this application?
Based on the photographs that Eric produced, it looks like the character of the neighborhood includes built-up garages. This is not in any way unique in this neighborhood. That was my impression.
Well, the lot itself is it's unique to begin with. That whole area is kind of unique to begin with, but I'm shocked that all the neighbors are actually in favor of it. So I think that took away any concern from me.
Testament to how well the Brovitz have made themselves in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Seems like everybody's very happy with them.
My question is, if this is built on the 3 previous variances, I'm generally in favor of what Terrence said, that we build according to the plan. And now we're sticking another variance in here to modify the 3 variances to 4 so we can build what we want. I mean, would this have been approved in totality when, if they'd gone for the 4 variances? And I'm not so sure it would have.
That is an interesting question, Dave, about how we would have voted if this was presented as a unified proposal originally. I mean,
I
my
didn't realize-
recollection, oh, go ahead, Kelly.
I know we've had various properties come up. I didn't realize it was still a part of the same one. I kind of wondered about, about that. So that's interesting that Dave brought that up.
Yeah, my recollection, and I could be wrong, is that when the house came in front of us, did we consider a height variance on the house, Eric?
Back in 2013, you mean?
Yep.
Was it that long ago?
I don't
That was
think
quite a
so.
while.
I think there may have been an application for a height variance at one point, and maybe even Jay Harris, you can, actually, no, we're in deliberations, you can't, I'm sorry. It might have been a later application, back maybe 2016 or something like that, but I don't recall.
My recollection is that we, at some point, we're talking about height on this structure, and there was a concern about it being too tall, but, you know, its location, it can't have a basement, it's got to have, you know, crawl space, utilities, and all this stuff that were extenuating circumstances. And I think because of that, we granted a very slight height variance, maybe. But anyways, my point is that this structure is going to be lower in terms of height than the house, and it's going to be tucked further back away from the lake, and will, you know, essentially be shielded from view from the lake by the house. So I don't have a ton of concern. You know, I don't know, Dave, how I would have voted at the time if it had been a unified project. I don't know. But at least right now, it's not giving me too much.
Well, so since Dave, I mean, I know Dave and I came on the board almost, I think, around the same time or so, but I do vaguely remember some lot divisions and some other kitchens and stuff like that that were outdoor kitchens were brought to us, tennis courts. There's a whole bunch of stuff that's been brought to us right in that same vicinity. So I think, you know, from a height perspective, I'm not sure about the height thing. I don't recall a height variance request. And if not, I believe we were, just like you said, very, very tight with granting anything. So.
To be honest, my memory sometimes just fails me. Now I'm wondering if it was on the Shotlands property.
Yeah. I believe that there were quite a few requests from they're right all around in that same area, but I don't recall this this particular parcel. So
I don't recall it either, but I'm looking at the setback, the side setback and the rear setback, and I'm, you know, there were reasons the variants were given, but I think it's very difficult to look at the project. It's a substantial variance. It's, you know, and I'm not saying it doesn't fit the character of the property, but I've already said my concern. So.
Well, it's still a good concern, and we need to hear it, Dave. What other thoughts do folks have?
So we had variances request, you know, like, have we granted, what is the average request that's been over there? I know we had a whole printout. Somebody did one time and printed out all the different variances in that whole section. Have
that printout usually, I mean, I made it originally. It related to lot coverage, building coverage, front setback, and I think maybe principal building height variances.
Okay.
But there's not a ton of those. And again, that's just principal building height.
I think somebody actually brought one in too, if I'm not mistaken, but it went back to like 1970 or something like that. So.
Well, are there other, points of this application that you guys think would be helpful to discuss, or do we want to vote, or what do you think?
I think the floor level of this, again, is driven by the floodplain. So it's a little bit higher than it might otherwise be. And looking at the building that's right next to it there, the next property, I can't believe this is not that one, but yeah, that's got to be, I think, a bit higher than what they're asking for.
I don't know, it's pretty difficult to measure. Again, that's a pretty non-sloping roof. I don't know what, it looks like about a 312 or something, but it's hard to gauge without, and again, you look at a Morton building, heck, you can put a Morton building up with 16-foot, to the trusses. You just don't know what it is. There isn't any, we don't have any numbers, but I'm not disagreeing with you, Chip. I'm just saying it's certainly, I'm not saying it doesn't fit into the character of the property, but.
Yeah.
Well, does anyone have a concern with us voting on this, or no? All right, why don't you call it, Eric, and we'll see how it comes out.
Okay. The application for Richard Broswitz at 5265 Menteith Drive. The applicant is requesting an area variance to allow a detached garage with a 22-foot building height when 16 feet is the maximum allowable height. Shall the applicant be granted a 6-foot detached garage height area variance? Bob?
Yes.
Dave?
No.
Kelly?
Yes.
Chip?
Yes.
Terrence?
Yes. Okay. So the board's decision is based on the descriptions and drawings provided on the written materials, and Eric will insert the dates for those, and the public hearing held on September 15th, 2020. The board has determined that the benefit to the applicant does outweigh the detriment to the neighborhood, the community, therefore the variance is granted. The board's decision is based upon the following specific findings of fact as presented during the public hearing. First, the board has determined that the granting of the variance is in keeping with the character of the neighborhood. Is there other similarly situated properties with similar heights? I want to change that, Eric, to say similarly situated detached structures or detached garages with similar heights. The variance will not change the character of the neighborhood because of these similarly situated structures. The granting of the variance will not have an adverse effect on the property or the neighborhood. The board has also considered that due to the location of the proposed detached garage, it cannot have any basement. Similar to the house, it cannot have any basement, and its need for additional storage has been considered by the board. The structure will also be at a lower height than the principal structure and located behind the principal structure, which will minimize any impact on the view shed from the lake. The unique shape and topography of the parcel also limit potential additional locations and lower heights with additional or with increased square footage on the ground level. Any other findings of fact anyone would like to add? All right, and then we'll go. Oh, go ahead.
Maybe add the supporting neighbors. Did you add that in there?
I did not.
The multiple letters of support from surrounding neighbors.
And then in terms of conditions, we'll put the two standard conditions. The first is that the variance is granted specific to the most recent plan submitted to the Zoning Board of Appeals, and a change in the plan will invalidate the variance. And then secondly, that the variance is conditioned on building permits being issued within 1 year, and failure for those building permits to be issued within the year will invalidate the variance. Okay, so that brings us to the end of our deliberations. We have a little bit of board business to address tonight. First is an approval of the minutes from our August hearing date. Anyone have any changes or a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
All right. We got a motion by Dave and a second by Bob. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? All right, the minutes are approved. Eric, I think it's just a placeholder, but do we have a request for rehearing right now?
No.
Okay. And then it looks like there's one referral for the watercourse setback local law.
Yep. So, as the code is currently written, a structure has to be set back 100 feet from a bed of a stream, and this is the important clause, carrying water on an average of 6 months of the year. This change came up in conversation with a gentleman over on Knott Road, or I had initially denied his application to build, and you know, he kind of challenged me on that clause, and after consideration, I said, you know, you're right, essentially. That information doesn't exist. We do not have what streams carry water on average of 6 months of the year. Knowing that would take a multi-year study of the streams to establish that, which the town has not done. In doing that, or looking into that, I reached out to Kevin Mulvaney to see if he had any information, which he did not. I reached out to the DEC to see if they had any information, which they did not. So to modify this code section and clarify it and hopefully achieve the intent of what it's saying, that they set back 100 feet from streams, we will use what we generally refer to as streams, which are the DEC classified streams within the town. So that's where the definition of protected water course comes from. These are streams that have been classified essentially. These are the streams that show up on Encore. These are the streams that show up on the Town of Canandaigua water course map within the NRI documents and the open space documents. And so requiring a 100 feet or 100-foot setback from the bed of a protected water course. So it's more clear. There is not that kind of open-ended 6 months that nobody ever looks into. And that is the proposed change here. Are there any comments?
Kind of makes sense, so, yeah.
Seems like the town's got better things to do than study streams.
Dave, we'll elect you to do that job.
Stream superintendent.
Finally.
Okay.
All
Well,
right.
if nobody had comments on it, we'll take it back.
Yeah. And then Eric, next month?
Let me pull up the PRC agenda real quick.
I'll get it.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
So
It's an
this
old
is, of
school
course,
telephone.
barring any changes that are remade. I think at least one of the applicants is trying to avoid a variance, but Jamie Farr on Daisy Way is looking for a setback for the construction of a swimming pool, a setback variance for the construction of a swimming pool. It's actually just north of the property that you guys had granted a variance to a year or two ago, Sellos. Scott Harder representing Harold Bobry on County Road 16. This is the one that I think they're going to try to eliminate the need for a variance, but right now they are 13 square foot over on the lot coverage requirement. Design works for Greg Banfield on Foster Road. They are putting in, there's an existing garage that they're adding onto, and that garage is also getting an addition to connect to the house. And so doing it requires a larger setback. They're looking for a side setback variance from that addition. And potentially this one as well, Venezia for Leo Gineco and Sons. They are proposing a subdivision, but I'm asking them to clarify whether they're proposing to go through as a conservation subdivision, which would allow the planning board to essentially waive dimensional requirements, or if they're seeking variances to do that. So
Is that the one that's off the lot, like by Butler there?
that one's by Mobile Road.
Oh,
So you know where the new Scoops is, and then there's the little trailer park street just to the north of it.
Yep.
yeah. Ah, okay.
All right, Eric, thank you.
Yep.
Well, I have 6:51. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Motion.
I have to go mow my lawn. Hurry up.
Motion by Kelly, seconded by Chip. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Any nay?
Hey, John, I might need you next month. Are you good?
I'm good, I believe, yeah.
All right. I'll let you know it. Okay. Thank you.
All right, well, with that, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
All right. See you later.
Okay,
Hey,
night.
It's short tonight. Take care.
terrific.